Okay, so first of all, good evening, Jerusalem. Hello and welcome to Doc Text, the documentary film festival at the National Library of Israel. For the first time, this festival goes international, and we hope you are all enjoying the rich um, time. This festival goes international, as I said, sorry, and we hope you are enjoying the rich program that we created for you. Okay, my name is Anat Zuria, and we are hosting here the amazing and gifted Noam Pinchas, filmmaker that made the wonderful film, which his name is The Wonderful Kingdom of Papa Alaev. All right, so first of all, Noam, I really would love to hear about the beginning of your filmmaking and about you as a
Oh,
filmmaker, right? Because before we go into the story of the making of this wonderful film, I would like to know from, from all the media and all the arts in the world, how you became, a documentary filmmaker.
yeah, it's a long story. I'll try to keep it short. First of all, thanks for being here and thanks for hosting this, Anat, and thanks to Jerusalem and for the National Library. Um, I started filmmaking is my second career in a way. My first career was sound editing and yeah, sound editing for film. I majored that in Boston, and then I came back to Israel, and and this is pretty much what I did. And I think I was sort of like a filmmaker in the closet back then, because I remember I was editing sound like for directors, and I was sort of like jealous or envy, or like I wanted it to be my film all the time, but I just didn't know how to go at it. And then like when I was like almost 10 years after that, or 8 or 7 years after that, I went to India for the first time. Um, and I think I came back as a filmmaker. It took me a couple of years to start my new film, but I just knew I wanted to make films. When I came back from there, it was a very meaningful trip. I was there for like 6 months, and that's pretty much it. I just went back to India a couple of years later when I was like 31 or something, and I made my first documentary about my guest house owner, where I lived in the Himalayan mountains. I knew him from my previous film. I just wanted to make a film about him. I was just curious, I think, and that's pretty much what started my filmmaking career. Yeah.
So it's interesting because my previous question actually, or I'm curious also about the making of this film. Each film it's a journey.
Yeah.
And specifically with the commentary films, we begin with something. Sometimes it's a idea, a concept, someone that we are very interested in his story. Sometimes it's an image. So I would like to hear how did this film began.
Well, I think I was just looking for an excuse to come back to India, because I felt that I knew him, but it was a very a black and white sort of like tourist Indian guest house owner sort of relationship. Even though I stayed there for a few months, I was invited to his wedding, and but I felt that I didn't really know him, and I felt that by documentary filmmaking, you're giving the honor of really diving deep into someone's lives, conflicts, dreams, is about people. And this is pretty much what starts each film I have, whether it's a subject or a character. And I had this notion of how I wanted to start the film, but as you probably know, and it probably happened to you before, you just start shooting and you realize that your whole conception and your whole trajectory was wrong, and the person is it's a total different story, but the feeling is still there, meaning he's an interesting character. He wasn't playing, I mean, he was a guest house owner when he was dependent on the tourist money, and but he didn't suck. He was very, very, like, he was up, sort of upscale kind of guy, and very classic, and very, later on I named it, was very cinematic. you could see a lot of his emotions in his face. He didn't need to talk much, even though he had perfect English. And he was just a good character. It turned out to be a good character, so my instincts were right. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and it got me back to India, which was what I wanted. And I remember the first day I got there, and I realized that the story that I wanted to tell about him being forced to marry this girl that he didn't really love, and he had this, his cousin was his high school sweetheart. It was completely wrong. The guy was having a, he really loved his wife, and nothing interesting sort of like happened in his life. And I was like, so why am I here? And then the journey started, like restarted in a way.
Right. And if I'm taking this kind of experience to the films that we are here talking about, actually, the wonderful Papa, I mean, the kingdom of Papa Alaev. How did this film actually begin? I mean, did it begin with you knowing or Tal? And here it's also an issue of
Yeah.
co-directing with Tal Brada, which is, so tell me a bit about two decision actually. First, why did you, who you choose first? Did you, when you begin the movie, and why did you decide to co-direct in this film?
Well, at the times, Talon and me, we met actually in India when I was screening my second film. Like, and then we met in India. The first thing we did, we made a film together about like in India. She had a small camera. We just made a one day documentary about this rickshaw driver, and we had a really strong connection. Even though I was in a way more experienced, and she just graduated from film school, but we had a very strong connection on various levels, and we were looking for a big project to do together. We were just looking for it, and it took a couple of years. And then she said, "Listen, the other day I went to see a concert. You have to listen to these guys." And their manager said that she thinks that they want to have a documentary made about them. So first of all, just listen to the music. Now I'm very, because I did sound design before. I'm a lot of, for me, music is a character in the film. It's not just something that, just an underscore. It's really character. And I listened to them, and for like 2 weeks I just listened to them because their music was so captivating. But then I say, okay, but we're making documentaries, we're not making music essays. And then we went to see a concert of them, a very small concert in Jerusalem, actually, not far from here.
No, really.
Yeah, and before the concert there was a balance, and I saw one of the grandchild. She was like 16 at the time. She was just kicking ass on the violin in the balance, and my jaw dropped because she was very cinematic in her approach to the violin. You could really see what she feels when she played the violin, which like immediately took my attention. And then I said to this woman who sat next to me, who seemed to be their manager, I said, "Wow, this girl plays amazing." She says, "Yeah," and she's my niece. She was part of the family, and Papa the is my father. And I said, "Wow, good for you. Wow, she plays so nice." And she says, "Wait until she gets married." And then I said to myself, "There's a story here, a family story,
Right.
and the family story is something that everyone can relate to, that I could relate to. Even I didn't grow up in a house of musicians. I still had very complex relationships with my parents, later on with my wife, then with my kids. So it's something that it's a very unique world to be part of a musical family. But if the themes, and this is the theme of the story that I think we figured from day one, is how do you find your place within a family? And this is something that we all undergo. And that is what kept us all the time, like that was the campus. That was the question: how do you find your place within a family? Yeah, they're very exotic, and they play great music, and everything is very unique. They have their foods, and everybody live together, but it's a family film. So that was, from day one, that was really clear to us. Yeah, in that sense.
you know, for me, watching the film, it raised, as you say, the essence of not just fitting, I would say, in a family, but also the different, I would say, narratives that, you know, each one of them has in terms of generation, in terms of immigration. So it has so much elements of that specifically with immigrating to immigrants from one place to another place. But it's not just about the immigrants. I think it's you capture beautifully the different narratives of the different um, children in the family, the father, the grandchild, and so on. I want to ask you, I mean, something that I was very much impressed was a really intimacy you achieved with the family members. And I want to ask you, how did it evolve? And did you had any twist in terms of, you know, the relationships? Because, you know, I always feel that, you know, you, in many sense, the depth of the figures of the protagonist in the commentary film, it's the way we relate to them. And you know, in that sense, I felt that, you know, you had a very deep relationship with most of them. I felt that actually with all of them. So I would love to hear about that. I mean, did you, first of all, what kind of relation you had, you and Tal, with different members? And did you had any twist? I mean, things that were surprising. You know, I understand that you followed them for 5 or 4 years. You know, it's really a long time.
Yes, yes, it is. Um, all right, I'll start by answering the question regarding how did we achieve the intimacy. Um, really like in my filmmaking to try and screen the footage to myself as early as possible, even the following day. So the language and the approach will evolve. I mean, as the story evolved, the filmmaking is evolving. I mean, it's not as if, all right, let's watch it in 2 years from now, because we wanted to learn, and we felt that from day one, from in the beginning, they, because they were on TV before and they were interviewed a few times for news, you know, for contemporary news, etc., and each time the camera opened, they got into character of the family narrative, which was the first character that we encountered is actually the narrative that opens the film. And that is pretty much from the first day of the shooting. This is how we present ourselves to the world.
Right.
And then we said, all right, that's one thing. Now we need to create the tension between the show and what really happens there. So it was a combination of during the first days, don't look at the camera, don't look at the camera, don't look at the camera. Pretend we're not here, pretend we're not here, pretend we're not here. And they realized that this is what we were looking for, because both Tal and myself were not one of these directors, documentary directors, who are actively taking part in the scene. Some directors do. They throw questions in the air, they stop things, they maneuver things. We usually give basic instructions at the beginning of the day, or what is the conversation going to be about, or something, or we just come in and follow them really fly on the wall style. And then I would say you just wear them out. Just day in and day out, you come in and you shoot stupid things, and you shoot family events, and you win their trust, not to manipulate them, because you want to be submerged in their lives. So you shoot endlessly in a way, but as a professional, you just have to take this as part of the thing. And you don't show them the footage. They don't see a film. They just forget about the meaning of what does it mean to be a protagonist of an ongoing documentary. They just forget it, and they let you in, and they embrace you, and they trust you, and you trust them. And just the time creates this trust. Now, of course, you want stuff from them because you want to tell a great story. So that's the balance between, how much do you push your characters and you don't need to push your characters, and it's a matter of style. It's a matter of and I think in that sense, it was really, really good that both Tal and myself were there, because at times she was the one to take the lead in terms of pushing the story forward or talking more with the characters, etc., etc. And I did the other way around at other times. In general, we can say that I can say that Tal felt more um, related to Ada, to the daughter.
That's what I want to ask you.
Yeah, and I felt more related to Ariel because my father died many years ago, and my father was very strict and sort of like a straighten your back. That was one of his lines, you know. And in a way, I saw Ariel as, in a way, myself. Like he's trying to hold his father together, trying to defend his kids, etc. And Tal saw Ada as this liberated, more, modern woman. And it's funny to say modern, just 20, just a plain woman, like very liberated as regards to what she grew up in. And on the other hand, the grandchildren, like the granddaughters, I was in love with them. Like they were amazing to me and their struggle. So it was a mixture of who loves who, but it was always like Tal's point of view. I never opposed it. I think it's just inspired me to give more attention to Ada, and then the other way around. And that was also a part of the editing process, because when you edit a multi-layered character film,
Right.
every small turn changes the balance, and then we say, oh, we have too much of Ariel, where's Ada in the film, and then the other way around. So until everything fits together, it takes years. It took us like I think a year and a half to edit the film. um
I want to ask you
yeah.
too, relating to that. I mean, first of all, speaking about narratives, as you said, in the exposition of the film, you actually show the way they portray themselves, from the point of view or from the narrative of Papa, right? The
Yep.
big pattern. So, and then you break it into the other point of view and feelings and actually experience, of the different member of the family and the tension between all of them. I wanted to ask you, I think one of the most beautiful, I mean, there are many, many beautiful elements in this wonderful film,
Thank you.
actually, but one of them is the fact that you and Tal, very talented people, filmmaker, also succeeded to be very human. So it's not, in terms of the narrative of the film, speaking about different narratives in the family, nobody was demonized. Nobody,
Yeah.
everyone is so human. So I wanted to speak about that. I mean, when we see Papa, he's portrayed in such a, I think, a beautiful ways that you see him, you see how he's not bullying, but he's, kind of a bit
Yeah. Yeah,
controlling.
controlling, that's the
What
way.
Tal is looking for.
That's the word.
He's a very much, he's a control freak, but still, you see also his love and passion for them. And so, and you see his vulnerability, right? He's also vulnerable in many ways. So I want to hear about what you went through 4 years, probably you went through all kinds of phases.
Sure.
And this is really, for me, it's very interesting, what's happening through, wow, 4 years of, making a relation with the family, and how it reflected, if it was in a way reflected in the movie itself.
I think it's a great question because you're totally right. What happened in a lot of films, you start with the text of the story. So
Right.
we thought that the text of the story was, who is going to rule the Alaev family? Who is going to be the next Papa? Is it going to be Ariel or is it going to be Ada? Which is very Hollywood dichotomy. Like, is it going to be he or she? Is it going to be old school or modern? And where is who's going to be the next king or queen? And then you start following them, and you learn, and you collect footage, and and you enhance the trust. But then you start seeing that something is happening, and I'm talking months later or a year later, which naturally is happening in the third generation, the grandchildren.
Yeah.
And in a way, this is constructed, the acts of the film. In the first act, you see the balance of power. Papa, two opposing kids in a way. But then life kicks in and reality. So the Hollywood model sort of fades, and then you get into the human documentary realm where the grandchildren actually grew up in front of our eyes and they started asking questions. And Amir asked questions by becoming religious. Chazal b'tshuva, he became religious. And Tzvika was thereby re-encountered with his mother and having his own musical thing, which is totally normal because they're they're teenagers. They're nearing, and one more thing that I think also happened is that the third generation learned to use us. We
Wow.
called it we
Yes.
called it a confession booth. The interviews with them, they could talk verbally, they could verbalize feelings and positions that they couldn't convey to Papa or to Ariel, to their parent, because it's, because it's a family, and usually in families there are taboos. Regardless, I mean, if you're from the west or the east or the south and the north, there are some taboos. But then when somebody else is coming and say, "Listen, we have 4 hours. You can speak about whatever," they even used it in a way. I think, in a way, it was
This is
one of
very
these.
smart. This is my experience also. It's very interesting what you are saying. And
Yeah,
actually, it's rare to hear it, because what actually happening I say the making of the film, there is kind of, we reflect to them and they evolve through that in a sense. But also
totally,
they reflect on us, because I feel that they raise feelings and thoughts that, there's this kind of tango, kind of between, when
totally.
really long distance, it's not a long relationship, sorry. Yeah, so it's very interesting what you are saying here. I had it, I felt it also in my work.
Of
um,
course, it means we're doing a good job because again, I mean, the characters usually just live their lives, and then we come and by just being there, we accelerate processes. We change reality. I don't, I'm not pretending that filmmaking, documentary filmmaking, does not alter the reality. It documents, but in here, I think that we just pushed the trajectory some more, but the elements were there all the time. So I felt it was a win-win situation, so to speak. Uh, and I was really, really curious to see what would happen. And that, because we felt that Papa's position is solid as a rock. He's a great character to begin the film with, but he's not going to change. He's not going to evolve. He doesn't need to. That's not his position in his life story. You know, never mind the film. In his life story, in his inner narrative, is just Papa. He's just there. We were just there a week ago celebrating, went to visit the family, celebrating his 88th birthday. He's still there. And still the same. But the grandkids, they're really, really changed and involved. So in a way, it was a story of a third generation. I mean, he really carried the dramaturgy of the film, of a character who actually underwent a change, which we're always looking for, a change, something to happen in the film rather than just, portray a picture, a still picture.
for me, I felt that the way I went through the plot and the script of the film, I did felt that, the title is a very accurate in a way, very, portrays the real essence of, a family drama, which actually all of them had to deal with this, extremely charismatic and controlling persons that, gave them so much, but then, didn't give them the freedom to actually, choose what they really want to do with their identity and with their life. And this is a huge contrast, it's a huge conflict. And I think in many, many families, in this way or other way, it's, it's in the, you have this kind of tension. So I wanted to ask you, about the, how in terms of the, in each making of the film, we need to find support, economic support. So does you felt that here in Israel, the broadcaster, people would, open to listen to this kind of story? Um, I'm just curious, how it was received in the process. And then I would like, of course, to hear about how, after the movie was made, how it was, accepted.
Yeah, that was it was a very, very, very long production. And I think the fact that it took us so much time to raise all the money, we benefited from the because we continued to follow and shoot the family. So we got like the arc of the film, which much broader. So that in that sense. Now, we started by shooting a 2 days promo with them, and I edited it. And luckily, I can also edit, so that really helps you. So you don't need money. And Channel 8 took it on the spot, like
Wow.
literally on the spot.
Yes.
And then we were accepted to Greenhouse. It's now called the Close Up, and that is one of the events that changed my life. It's an international hub, like Greenhouse, um, and a we met amazing filmmakers from all over the south part of the Mediterranean and from Arab countries. Amazing filmmakers, amazing people who I'm still in contact with, and the story really shaped there. It was actually the first international film. It's like my fourth film, I think. It's the first international film that I'm making, and then luckily we won there, and that got us into meeting a lot of markets, like international markets, like I think Tribeca, Hot Dogs, and Sheffield. And we did the tour, like the pitching tour. And after that, we got both Arte and Econ from the Netherlands. And that was like really took the film forward. In budget, because
Which is a very important part.
it's the you get the tools to craft your art.
Right.
But more importantly, and that was a very, very tough school for me to learn, it was a filmmaking school, because in Arte we were in the grand format and we worked with producers and with commissioning editors. That's the level of filmmaking that they expect, and the passion and the ambition that they expect is high. And I hope that we lived up to the challenge, and the audience will say. But for me, it was my entry card to the international market. And I mean, Israel is that was the base. We have Channel 8, we have Rabinovich Film Fund, we have the lottery, and we have Gesher. We have everything that is, but still, without the support from abroad, we couldn't have done it. And for me, the support from abroad is always two ways. Still, A, the financial means, but B, the point of view of looking at the story not from a local Israeli point of view, but from a universal point of view. So that, for me, immediately elevates your filmmaking, because you have to deal with more cinema, not with just words and phrases or Israelis nuances that come out in words, but in cinema, in looks, in emotions, in all these universal aspects of filmmaking. So that was, I mean, that's how I edit now. That's how I direct now. These are the stories that interest me, that are going um, to be interesting, hopefully to be interesting for international audience. Um, and for me, every filmmaker, just one more thing to add, if you really like want to craft your work and you need the money to support yourself, a co-production is a must. From where I stand, it's just a must. It's so hard to make it just with this, Anat. You're a very, I mean, you're a senior filmmaker. You made so many films, and you know these hardships. that we undergo. It's an underpaid profession, and we
Right.
need to find creative ways to support our art.
Yeah. Well, it's a it's a field that is very dynamic, and I feel that all the time through the last 20 years that I've been in this field,
Wow.
it's changes so much in terms of the technology and the way that now films are preserved. It's all the time ongoing process to understand how to, to interest and the tension between the local and the universal. It's also a question of what kind of, I say, topic or stories. And I feel that in this wonderful film, it's very much about, as you say, the cinema, and you were very loyal to the script in terms of the very high level of scripting. Which was so in that sense something also rare. We didn't talk till now that it's full of sense of humor, even though it's have elements of dark kind of,
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
but it's full of humor. You got so much. In some ways, it's like I felt like it's a kind of pop art kind of movie, which has a lot of irony, and I loved it. I mean, for me, it was not just about the story, which is a great story, but also about the way your cinematography also, and your, I would say, tone of the film, which you really succeeded, I think, in finding something between the tragic and comic, so I want to really compliment you. I mean, for me, it's
Thank
really
you.
a masterpiece. I want to ask you about your previous, I mean, what are your plans actually? I mean, you were speaking about um, your next work. What are you planning?
It's I think maybe because I never went to film school, my genre and my tastes keep changing. My first film was a classic fly on the wall, like very dogmatic. No one looks at the camera, no interviews, no music, no original score, just diegetic music. And then a portrait of a rock and roll band going to India, and then a very personal film about my childhood friends, a friend who became handicapped due to an accident, a car crash, and my attempts to find my way back to him, hand in hand with trying to have babies, to becoming a father, and practicing my first steps in Buddhism, so to speak. So it's really changing. And then we did another film with Tal. I did another film with Tal about heart surgeons, and then The Wonderful Kingdom of Papa Alaev. And then we did a short documentary about Stav Shafir for the BBC. And and then I produced some very YouTube poppy, a very YouTube poppy film. And now I'm into political investigative genre. So
Uh,
that's my next few
so
projects.
can you talk about it? Can,
Not is no it's just no is
no,
I prefer not to, because yeah, because I still need some sources. Yeah,
I
so
I see.
uh
So actually, I really would like to see. I don't know if anyone was asking question. I think they know they were happy with what our talk,
okay,
the way our talk.
okay.
So I really, before we are parting, I mean, maybe you would like to add something that I didn't think about. I mean, actually, I wanted to ask you, and that you didn't tell us about the receiving of the film.
Yeah,
What, kind of reaction you got from the family and from, the audience.
the hardest screening was to the family. We made a big deal out of it. We made this mini cinema in their house, and we
Wow.
bought popcorn, and everybody came in, etc., etc. And and Tal and me, because we're so scared, we sat at the rear, very close to the exit. So if things will warm up, we just have to leave. And Papa was sitting in front of me, and he didn't and everybody was laughing like crazy and becoming serious. They were really, really active, all the family, like 20 people there. And then when the film ended, like the lights turned on and everybody was looking to Papa. because this is how the narrative will start, by what Papa is saying.
Yeah.
And he thought about it and he say, well, when can we make a series? And then and in a way
Great, great. I
he
mean, this is a great
yeah,
compliment. No,
yeah,
this is
it
the
is, it
best
is.
compliment, from what I know
Totally. And
about
I think
it.
that and I think that later we had a more serious conversation with Ariel's wife. She's not really in the film because most of the time she's just not in the film. We can see her in the kitchen every now and again, and she's super smart. She has very, like, I really really love her. And she said, listen, it wasn't hard for it wasn't easy for us, if to be honest. It wasn't easy for me to see myself like this, but I'll give you that it was very truthful. and
This is
and
uh, uh, this is very also. This is a huge compliment.
yeah, yeah, it is. They accepted it, and we had the premiere at Hot Docs, uh, and we made a lot of efforts, and we brought Ariel and Aviva with us, and they made street concerts, and they performed after the screening, and
Lovely.
and
It's
and
amazing.
they saw how the audience from Canada, like really serious documentary filmmaking audience, received the story and them, and how they embraced it, that even though the film shows angles and moments that usually it's they don't see on Friday evening TV shows, sort of like, and
Yeah.
that the audience still loves them. So I think they grew also to love the film, and we had an amazing round worldwide. To some concerts, they be able to come. We had amazing shows, and like a combination of shows and screenings in Israel, and it was an amazing year. I think like 30 or 40 film festivals went from Brazil to US, Canada, all over Europe, in China. I mean, it was really Moscow. It was really, really well received. And I think, again, nobody understands Hebrew Israeli mentality. Nobody understands Tajik. It's just about the fact that it's a family, a unique one, but a family.
I
And
think it's
that is what I think.
cinema. I must really compliment you. I mean, I
Thank
think
you.
it's a beautiful film. Really, I feel that it's a masterpiece, and in many ways, because all the way, the rhythm and the cinematography, in so many ways of what we call a cinema, it's a great achievement. So actually, I think, I mean, I don't see here now remarks. I mean, we can sit here for me. I would love to hear. Um, so there is anything that you were surprised. I mean, this is a very good, receiving, and it's wonderful to hear it. If you want to summarize it, I mean, I feel that in making film
um,
ed,
it was an amazing ride. Oh, we lost Anat. We lost Anat. I'll wait for her for just one more minute. Where is Anat? Where is Anat? Where is Anat? I need to find ways to pass the time before she comes back. A glitch. We're just wrapping up to begin with. Um, all right. So, uh, so right, we got a hold of her. All right. So Anat encountered a short glitch, and she'll be with us in a minute. What else can I say? Hmm. I feel like I can talk. I mean, I can answer Anat's question regarding what surprised me. Um, do I have a minute or two, or is he just joining us? Yeah. All right. So I think the part that surprised me most of all most in the shooting was the part where Papa stood up and left the dining table towards the end of the film, where he felt that Zvika, the grandkid, is undermining him and trying to have his own independent music endeavor. And we were shocked. I mean, I was the one who was the DOP in this scene, and I'm not that great of a DOP, and I just sort of like told myself, don't move, don't move, don't fuck this up, don't move, because something really, really unique happens here. And it was one of the key moments of the film. And I think, again, Papa was very classy about it. He didn't shout, he didn't, turn the table upside down, but he just protested in a very classic way, just stood up and left. So for me, that moment was like super, super, super surprising, really unexpected. I and that's pretty much it. Guys, do you have some question here? The technical thing? I mean, the anything?
Yes.
All right, all right. So I just told them the audience a short story about the scene where Papa stood up and left the dining room, and yeah, and please take the lead again, because I was like in limbo. All right, I have to speak with myself, and that's not here.
With ourselves, I think very good moments can be achieved.
Yep.
I actually just want, before we are parting, I mean, I would like to ask you about last question about ending. We are going to end this talk. I want to ask you about the ending of the film. What did you had a hard time to, to understand what actually you would like, how actually you would like to end this film?
Well, I felt that in a way you want to present a closure to all the characters, but it's documentary, and and the story here is very subtle. Like the drama is very subtle. So we knew that we wanted to end with Papa, something with Papa. That was for sure, because he's the beginning and he's the end of the film for us. And so before that, we parted with Zvika performing with his mother, and Ariel in a way performing with his kids. So the audience can in a way have a, a, a projection of a possible future for the second and third generation. And then we went back to Papa, and the scene where Avraham, the grandchild, is jumping on the bed, and Papa is with him, and then Papa is falling asleep. When I shot it, I was there with the camera. I knew it. I just knew the minute I was there, I knew this would end, because it's so, so symbolically, he closes his eyes. And in a way, well, for me, I mean, Tal thinks otherwise, but for me, this ending represents, like, in a way, he's letting go. To some extent, he's letting go. He's not really giving up, because it's Papa, but he's letting go, and he's in peace, in a way, for the future of the family. And then going back from then to the archive, that's the first thing we see him in his 20s or 30s, at the peak of his movement. And I can't really explain it in words. It's one of these things that it was just, when we placed it there, it just, because initially it was at the beginning of the film, but it was telling too much, because if you finish the film saying, it's like, it's a conviction, it's a proof that what he says about being professional and absolute and totally devoted to music as a means of life, not just profession, you can see it in the black and white archive. You can actually see it there. He's like full on. And this is where he came from. And it allows you to better understand his very tough position in educating his kids and grandkids. For me, I mean, for me as a filmmaker.
I felt also that this ending adds something to the enigma, because, for us, every person has some enigma, something hidden. And I felt, that I really loved this ending. It was very subtle, but it's also, there was, in a sense, something very deep in terms of understanding human and the contradiction, that they are actually acting uh, because he, of course, feels that he's doing the best. What can be more than establishing this music heritage, and the language of music and the meaning of music, and that is his real home, you feel. So actually, I
For
want to
sure.
thank you so much for a wonderful talk about wonderful
Wow. Wow.
music.
You too.
Um,
You too, Anat.
I have some
Thank you so
also
much.
things to say, like, of course, thank you for being with us, our wonderful audience. Also, Doc Text Festival is taking place until November 25, and offers you a variety of other excellent films and events. All information on the festival website. And again, Noam, I learned so much from you. Um,
Wow. Thank you. Thank you,
and I
Anat.
hope that you will see, again. I mean, I saw it few times. I saw it again, and I felt, like a very good piece of music. I just want to see it more and more. It just become better in each, um, watching. So thank you.
Thank you
Noah.
so much, Anat. Wow, it's been super pleasure, and thanks for hosting and for being such a great filmmaker and a great film loving person. It really shows.
Thank you so much. I mean, I loved your film, and I loved your talk. I mean, because for me, again, as a filmmaker, I think that being honest about our craft is very important, and there was so much honesty the way you portrayed everything. So again,
Thank
thank
you.
you, and thank you our
Thanks.
audience, and thank you the festival, beautiful festival of the library, National Library in Jerusalem. Uh, Goodbye and good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.